Hello, duelists, and welcome back to the news. This is XLex here, and we're going to be going over the latest Master Duel happenings over the past week. Of course, that is the prompt over here at This Week in Master Duel. So, just like last week, I'm going to go ahead and start by discussing some in-client changes. Then we'll talk about some leaks and updates coming up soon. And then after that, we'll go ahead and get into our weekly meta report. We'll look at some tournament results and see how the meta has been shaping up as a result. So, like I said, we're going to start here in client. Not a whole lot going on this week in Master Duel, not nearly as much as last week, of course. Although we did have this version update that just went live today. We actually have the maintenance for it that's going to be happening, tonight at the time of recording this. So, who knows, actually, by the time this video goes out, we might actually see confirmation of what this is. If it is a huge, major update, I'll go ahead and make another video for that. But I'm guessing, especially given the information that's shared here, the contents are going to be updates related to the WCS 2023 preparations. My guess would be that this is probably going to be the bundles that are related to that, if I had to guess. It's going to be the Ebony High Magician and whatever the prize card version of Blue Eyes is. That allow you to win the match. It's going to be like the sleeves, the monster art, and master packs. So if I had to guess, that's what the updates related to the WCS 2023 preparations means there. Other than that, there's not really been too much. Of course, we did get some more missions for the Monster Type Festival. I think we all by this point pretty much know how not only I, but I think just about everybody feels about this event, so I don't need to linger on it there. There is also the chance to cheer for your WCS 2023 champion. You'll get legacy tickets for that, and you could enter a lottery to receive 2,000 gems. Fun stuff. But really, as far as client side, that's really all that's been going on this week in Master Duel. But off client, in the realm of leaks and updates, we do actually have a pretty significant one that dropped yesterday. So let's go ahead and talk about that here. Alright, so as usual, we are back over here on Master Duel Meta. Is honestly the best place to go for updates like this, and indeed, it seems that we have the Chaos archetype has been leaked. As always, this is unconfirmed, as stated right here, so definitely keep that in mind. However, this is big if true for a couple of different reasons. One, of course, is the cards themselves, namely Chaos Angel, which I'm going to talk about more in depth here in a moment, but the timing of these cards being released definitely shakes things up quite a bit, as from my understanding, there are quite a few cards that have yet to be released between stuff that's out in Master Duel now and the point in the TCG slash OCG when these Chaos cards came out. I think it was Syac was the set where these came out or something like that. So we're definitely looking to probably see Kashira extremely soon, if I had to guess. We've all been saying that for a while, but they're definitely like starting to run out of stuff to release before Kashira. And I think that kind of shows with the Chaos cards coming in here. Again, I think these actually came out at the same time, if not a little bit later than Kashira stuff did. In addition to that, we have, of course, not only the Chaos Angel, which I'll talk about here in a moment, but the whole Chaos archetype. I'll go ahead and go over these cards very briefly each, although really the Chaos Angel is going to be the main one that sees competitive play, but there are a few interesting ones in here. So both the core and shell of Chaos are monsters that can... All these monsters have a common theme where once you use their effects, you can only special summon light or dark synchro monsters for the rest of the turn, which, I mean, to me, that's not very much of a restriction at all, considering light or dark synchro monsters are probably my favorite kind of extra deck monsters to summon, but it does restrict you from making, like, 2 generic event boards there, I guess, so to speak. So the core of Chaos and the shell of Chaos can each summon each other from the Banish Zone. They can also summon themselves by banishing light or dark monsters from the hand or graveyard. But again, you can only synchro for you can only summon light or dark synchro monsters from the extra deck for the rest of the turn. These cards are pretty meh. I'm not really super into them. I'll go ahead and just go down here to these 2 synchro monsters, Chaos Beast and Archfiend. I guess if you want to read their effects, feel free to pause on screen. I'm not really going to bother because honestly, they're just kind of mid cards, and I don't think even in a deck where you would want to play a whole bunch of light and dark synchro stuff, you would necessarily play this engine here. These other 3 cards, however, I think are a little bit more interesting. The Chaos Mirage Dragon. So this is actually a card that I was looking at relatively recently for some of the builds I was cooking up there. Chaos Mirage Dragon is a level 4 worm tuner that's light, 1600 attack, 600 defense. You can target a banished light or dark monster, special summon it to the field when it negates effects, and then, like the other cards, you can only summon light or dark synchro monsters from your extra deck for the rest of the turn. Also, if this card is sent to the graveyard as a synchro material, you can target cards up to the number of other monsters used for the synchro summon and to banish them. So I think the Chaos Mirage Dragon is actually really interesting for a couple of reasons. One, it's a level 4 tuner that has 600 defense, so it can be searched off of Cupid Pitch. This is kind of where I encountered Chaos Mirage Dragon, just searching around other Yu-Gi-Oh! Resources, looking for good cards to grab off of Cupid Pitch for stuff like Bestial Sprite Synchro and stuff like that. So the fact that, again, Cupid Pitch can now grab a level 4 tuner, I think, is interesting. And also the ability to summon any banished light or dark monster is a very strong one. Granted, you can only summon certain, synchro monsters from the extra deck for the rest of the turn. But I think if you try to summon this more towards the end of your combo, which for a deck like Bestial Sprite Synchro that usually doesn't use this normal summon anyway, that's actually not that big of an ask. I think this could be potentially very good. Also, it's very, very good going second, being able to banish at least one, if not multiple in some instances, cards on the opponent's field just for synchroing with it. And that effect actually does not lock you into light and dark synchro monsters. You can do that effect and still be fine. So Chaos Mirage Dragon, not going to be like a tier 1 card necessarily, but I think it's worth at least keeping an eye on. I feel kind of the same about Chaos Witch. It's going to be a level 4 dark spellcaster with 0 attack, 1600 defense. You can tribute this card, special summon 2 Dark Beast tokens, which are level 2 Dark Fiends with 1000 attack, 500 defense. If this card is banished from the hand or graveyard, you can special summon 2 Light Beast tokens. These are fairy level 2 tokens with 500 attack and 1000 defense that are also tuners, by the way. I think these are the first tokens besides the Sword Soul tokens that are treated as tuners. You can only use 1 Chaos Switch effect per turn, and only once during that turn. And if you do so, you cannot summon from the extra deck except for light or dark synchro monsters during the turn you activate either effect. So I think this card is extremely interesting for the latter effect, for the ability to summon 2 level 2 tuner tokens when it's banished from the hand or graveyard. Now, again, like all these other cards, the only extra deck monsters you're able to summon for the rest of the turn are light and dark synchro monsters, but that's a really strong effect. That's an incredibly strong effect to summon 2 level 2 tuner tokens, especially for the simple condition of just being banished from the hand or graveyard. That can be to summon a monster or to fulfill a condition to activate an effect or something like that, by the way. Doesn't necessarily need to be by the effect of a card, if I'm reading this right. And while the restriction could be a bit much, I think the effect is very powerful, and it's kind of similar to Chaos Mirage Dragon. I do think it's worth keeping an eye on at the very least. And the big one, and I'm actually going to go ahead and even open this. Yeah, we'll just go ahead and do it this way. I'm going to go ahead and open this in a new screen here. I said like that because I realized my tabs were still up there, but I don't think that's that big of a deal necessarily. But Chaos Angel. Chaos Angel is going to be the big one here. So this is a level 10 Dark Fiend Synchro. Takes a tuner and 1 or more non-tuner light or dark monsters. For this card, Synchro Summon, you contribute a light or dark monster you control as a tuner. So yeah, it's a level 10 Synchro monster that doesn't even ask you to necessarily have a tuner. As long as you have light and dark monsters whose total level is 10, you can summon this card. So expected to see it even outside of Synchro builds, right? Labyrinth in particular is a very big user of the Chaos Angel, and that is not necessarily where you might expect to see it solely or even the most, but it is a deck where you will definitely see the Chaos Angel quite frequently. In addition to that, if this card is special summoned, you can target a card in the field, banish it. That's very good, obviously. And for this card gains these effects based on the original attributes of the materials used for its Synchro Summon. Light Synchro monsters you control are unaffected by monster effects activated by your opponent, and for dark monsters you control cannot be destroyed by battle. So this card is effectively it towers. It doesn't have spell trap protection. It only protects against activated monster effects, but it also keeps itself from being destroyed by battle as well. So it is, I think, still definitely a very effective towers. And again, a very generic one, as quite a few decks will end up having access to this by virtue of, again, not needing a tuner necessarily in order to summon this thing. I would definitely expect to see Chaos Angel as an extra deck staple, and I highly recommend picking up a copy. And even if you pull one and you don't have a deck for it to slot into right now, this is definitely one of those cards that I would still just go ahead and hang on to, because it's going to be a generic extra deck tool for a lot of formats to come, honestly, I expect. So definitely hang on to any Chaos Angels, well, at least one Chaos Angel you pull, and even if you're not going to use it, it will definitely have a home at some point in the future, more than likely. So that's the big update, that's the big reveal, is this Chaos archetype here, right? All these cards coming in. We do still have the meta report to take a look at, though. I want to look at some of these tournament lists and kind of talk about how the meta is shaping up. So let's go straight into that. Okay, so we are over here in the top deck section. I have it sorted by the last 7 days, just so we can see what all has been submitted. I did check other sources. I do this every week. I checked Road to the King, as well as YGO Pro, and other sources, just to see if we had any other major Master Duel like updates on those. Didn't really see anything as far as like tournaments or anything like that, lists go. So we're just over here on Master Duel meta. As far as what's been submitted the last 7 days, this is all pretty expected. I mean, as far as the meta's going, you know, Tier Limits followed by Sprite, then Dragon Link, Labyrinth following that up. I do think that Lab is going to survive decently post new pack hype, right? Like usually when a new pack releases for even up to a month afterward, you'll see whatever new archetypes were released in that pack pretty steadily decline, as far as, like, you know, at first you'll see them get a lot of results as far as hitting top rank or doing well in tournaments, but then you'll kind of see them drop off a bit. Lab, I do expect to stick around as a tier 3 deck, which is where it is now on Master Duel meta. Of course, that only counts tournament results, but in the case of ladder as well, I do think that Lab is a tier 3 deck there. Trap Tricks, I expect to fall off a little bit more. I think it'll be upper rogue. Like, I don't think it's much worse than Labyrinth at all, but I do think that Lab is going to slightly edge it out as the slightly better back row base deck. But yeah, again, other than that, we have Dragon Link, Branded SPS, Sword Soul, Adamantipator, Exos. Yeah, I mean, this is all about the stuff you would expect to see on here. You know, nothing too ridiculous or anything like that. And as far as the meta on Ranked Ladder goes, I think this is where we're going to be pretty much until the next selection pack drops, is where we're at right now. And I think the meta's fine right now. You know, it's not awful. I don't know if it's like one of my favorite metas of all time, but I do think it's at least in a less turbulent place than it's been over the last couple of months between, you know, of course, Tier 0 hugely impacting the meta and hugely warping the game, I should say, honestly, and all that fun stuff. But, you know, Tier Limit, although they are still the best deck, they're not like just, you know, far and away the best deck, right? It is actually a contest now. So I will say that Tier Limit did get access to Grapha after this latest selection pack, and it seems, now that we're a couple weeks after the fact, that Grapha is looking to be a pretty consistent part of Tier Limit lists. Tiers are actually starting to use a lot more of the Fusion substitute monsters, and we're going to see some lists that are utilizing that here in our tournament section. Let's go ahead and just start looking at some of these tournament decks here. So, wanted to start with this one, the Tom Kara. I hope I'm saying that right. I'm probably not, honestly. Master Duel Mini Tournament, Season 17, Number 1. This is a tournament from the Arabic community. 64 players, best of 1 with no side deck. And there is an event stream if you feel like checking it out here. The top 4 lists, I think, are pretty interesting, particularly the top list here being Punk. I do like Punk. I like pretty much any synchro-based deck. You all know this about me by now. So it's very cool to see it still doing very, very well in the meta. We do have that leak from last week that we are probably getting a Punk secret pack very soon. I am definitely looking forward to that, to getting the Rising Carp and Amazing Dragon there. Notably, this particular iteration was playing 3 copies of Banquet of Millions, which is pretty wild, honestly. But at the same time, I can see it. The Punk extra deck actually has a lot of stuff in here that it doesn't really utilize even on turn 1. So you can do your Punk line and then set this on turn 1. And then on your opponent's turn, you can still Banquet of Millions for like even upwards of like maybe like 10 or so cards from the extra deck, and you're very likely to hit key cards from your opponent's strategy when you do that. They were also playing a summon limit, interestingly enough, so seems like they were teching for a best of 1 format, no side deck even in Top Cut. So I guess those were their techs for the best of 1 format there. very interesting. We have sprites following that, attacking the Infernal Prodigy as well as a Hop Ear Squadron. That's very cool. They are also going a little bit harder on the branded engine here, also pretty neat to see. Other than that, seems to be a pretty standard fare sprite deck. Libromancer got top 4 in this tournament, which I also thought was pretty cool. I don't know much about Libromancer as an archetype, but thematically they are very, very cool, and this isn't even really them blended with anything else. It's just a straight up pure Libromancer deck, so very nice, very awesome to see a rogue list like this seeing tournament success. And then we have another sprite list here, pretty par for the course, but all the same, congratulations to all these players here. So yeah, hope to see more from this tournament series. I really like these lists, and I always find it very interesting to see tournament results from parts of the world you don't necessarily hear a lot about their Yu-Gi-Oh community, at least here in the United States. So very excited to see more from the Arabic community here. Very awesome. We have the China Master Duel. This actually just happened, I believe, yesterday at the time of recording this. So 121 players in this tournament. They did 6 rounds of best of 1 Swiss, followed by a best of 3 top 16 cut there. Here is the breakdown for that. As you can see, tier limits were all over this tournament, but as we'll see here in a bit, there were some at least pretty interesting, in my opinion, tier limit variants, especially the winning list, which we're going to look at here in a sec. Despite tier limits taking up the vast majority of this top 16, the rest of the lists are kind of all over the place. We have Altergeist, Spiral, Blackwing, Melfi Sprite, Flow, and then Branded. So let's look at some of these lists here. The winning list in particular, I do think is interesting. I don't know if this got counted as the Sprite list. No, because that was Melfi Sprite. This doesn't have Melfi's, but this is Sprite tier limit. Not even like a pile deck. It's just 40 cards, Sprites in tier limit. I've actually kicked around this idea before, right, of just seeing how well these two archetypes work just straight up together. Really, the only obvious apparent bridge between them is Burley being a level 2 and being a good target as a result to send off of Sprend. But, yeah, it looks like someone beat me to the punch here, and on top of that, they end up winning the tournament with it. Very, very nice. Very, very nice. I noticed, okay, so I was talking about how a lot of these, what do you call them? The, tier limit lists are using fusion substitute cards now. I've noticed that a couple of these lists, because we'll see it, yeah, even right here too, are utilizing Goddess with the Third Eye. We've seen a lot of people use the King of the Swamp, of course, and some people also using Beast King of the Swamp. I believe we'll actually see it here somewhere as well. Yeah, Beast King of the Swamp is here as well. But Goddess with a Third Eye is definitely a new one. And in this particular second place list right here, I think it's utilized because of Branded and High Spirits, right? Because there's the Shadal construct in the extra deck. You can potentially send that with the Goddess, I'm guessing. I don't know. That's just kind of my assumption there due to... I can't really figure out why else you would include the Goddess. I will say that it is also level 4, so you can actually make rank 4s with it, which you can't do with King of the Swamp because that's level 3. This is also a fairy. I guess in this case it could be sent off the Diviner. Was this list playing Diviner as well? Okay, it was. So I think that's the other missing link there as to why they're specifically playing Goddess with a Third Eye, is because it is a fairy that can be sent off the Diviner of the Herald there. And again, potentially in this list used with Branded and High Spirits in conjunction with the El Shadal construct. So, okay, yeah, that actually makes a lot more sense now that we've kind of sussed that out. I will say that the Beast King of the Swamp, whichever list here it is, is also a level 4 monster. I'm actually kind of surprised that, now that I think about this, that a lot of people were still defaulting to King of the Swamp. I guess if you're playing, Vanilla Poly, that makes sense, which if you're blending with like Branded and other stuff also makes sense. But I figure if you're not playing Vanilla Poly, it's probably just to play Beast King over regular King of the Swamp, because this, again, as I said, is level 4 and can, at the very worst, be used to make a rank 4. So it does have at least that going for it. Here's more Goddess with a Third Eye. This, yeah, is being used in conjunction with the Herald of the Orange Light as well as the Diviner. Diviner seems to be very popular over in China here. Okay, here is the Altergeist list. I mean, it's about what you would expect from an Altergeist list. It's been a long time since I've played Altergeist on the channel. I gotta be honest, I don't even think I have my multi-fakers anymore. I feel like I got rid of those like over a year ago. But that card is at 3. It's actually been at 3 for quite a while. And on top of that, Altergeist is a pretty decent control deck. It gets to make use of the Secret Village of the Spellcasters, and of course, various back row effects as well. Yeah, definitely congrats to the player who got top 8 with Altergeist. That can be a difficult deck to get results with sometimes, so very, very cool. Here is a Branded list. It's actually teching the Grapha. Holy moly. What is this? Double Disruptor Dragon. Whoa, what is going on here? You can tribute this card, target 2 rocket monsters. Add 1 rapid trigger or heavy interlock. Oh, we are playing rapid trigger. Oh, it's a quick play fusion card. Got it. It's not specific to rockets. Okay, so that's why we're playing the double disruptor here. I see. Cool, yeah, so this tournament had a lot of very interesting lists, even though you might see like, oh, 10 tier limit, how interesting could they be? Yeah, I mean, between the winning list being sprite tier limit and all the different techs in between, some very interesting stuff happening over here with this one. And finally, let's go ahead and take a look at the Decade Meta Weekly from this week. Here we see tier limits taking the majority of spots yet again, although there is a bit more of diversity here. One of the tier limit lists is a Phantom Knight tier limit list, which I've thought about trying in the past as well. So I'm eager to see that. Looks like Sword Sultani actually ended up being the deck that took it all in this one, teching that red reboot for the Labyrinth players. I will say, I think, especially for the past couple of weeks, after the lab stuff just got released, it's more correct to tech lab or to tech red reboot against the lab in a tournament than it is on ladder. But I don't know if I would do it myself personally, even in a tournament. But still, Dango here definitely saw success with that in their Sword Soul list. Oh, cool. Here, the second place list is the Phantom Knight tier limit list. That's one, pretty rad. And two, yeah, I was pretty eager to see this. I've actually thrown together a list like this before, but I never really bothered to test it out. So who knows? Perhaps this concept actually has a lot more potential than I realized, and I may have to even go back to that here pretty soon. Here is Blackwing Gig in fourth place. A lot of the more rogue decks tend to be doing well in tournaments this week. I noticed here is the hero list that got top 4 here. Very, very nice. I mean, I do love heroes, so it's a 60 card hero list too. Wow, holy shit. Not even playing the grass either. Oh my god. Here, Pendulum. So yeah, even though we saw like mostly tier limits, this time around it seems that the rogue decks are the ones that end up placing a little bit better overall. Oh my god, is this Sword Soul teching a Gren Maju? It's 60 card Sword Soul teching a Gren Maju. And Royal Decrees, that's, I mean, they got top 8, so I won't knock them, but I personally wouldn't, but, you know, again, they did get top 8, so congrats to them for that working out. Oh my god, Arch Nemesis Escados in this tier list. Oh, here's finally a lab list that got top cut, outplaying the different dimension ground. I've actually been surprised that more lab decks on Master Duel haven't been on this, with tier limits still being as prevalent as it is here. And here we have Dragon Link. I'll just scroll over that briefly. Seems to be pretty standard fare stuff. Oh, here's a sprite list that's teching. I've thought about this card before. Blackwing Gust the Backblast. I've actually thought about this in Sprite Synchro, but pretty much there's a level 2 monster that can summon itself from hand. I've probably glanced at it before, so cool to see the sprite list here utilizing some pretty interesting level 2 techs. And then this is Dragon Link. Oh my god, playing all kinds of dragons I don't recognize. Holy moly. That's good. I like this a lot. Very, very nice. Yeah, if you feel like checking out these lists here, I will go ahead and link all of this in the description below. So that's going to do it for our weekly meta report, and that's going to go ahead and do it for this edition of This Week in Master Duel. Hope you all found the information here useful. If this maintenance overnight does end up yielding anything super huge, I will go ahead and make a follow-up video covering that. But if that's not the case, then I'll go ahead and, I guess either way, I will see you for next week's edition of the news. But for now, let's just go ahead and move to our outro. Alright everybody, thank you so much for watching all the way to the very end of the video like this. That means a whole lot to me, not just personally, but it's also a great way of supporting the channel as well. If you're interested in supporting the channel in other means, you can of course feel free to comment and or subscribe right here on YouTube. I'm always looking to the comments section. You guys leave some pretty awesome feedback as far as like constructive criticism goes when it comes to deck building, gameplay, channel content, all that stuff. So feel free to leave your opinion down there. I will be sure to take a look at that there. And then subscribing is going to be the best way to get notifications of when these videos drop. That does happen every day, by the way, so if you're looking for daily Master Duel content, you've come to the right place. And there are more places where you can get some daily Master Duel content. If you check out the description below, follow the top link over to my Patreon page. There for just $5 a month, which is as much as you pay for a booster pack. You'll find a lot more value than a pack full of filler over there. We've got some previews for content upcoming here on the channel. We've got some exclusive games that are only posted over on Patreon over there. We've got some Q&As, and then you can also have your name featured in this lovely credit sequence where I thank all of the people who are helping contribute over there on Patreon. It's a huge support to the channel, and it really means a lot as well. So thank you everyone who is donating that is featured here on screen. And again, you know, it's not just a pure donation. You do get some more daily Master Duel content over there just for being a part of the Patreon. But I think that's about all the time that I have for today's video. Once again, I just want to thank you so very much for sticking all the way to the end of the video. Again, it just means a lot, as I do put a decent amount of work into getting these videos out every single day. But that's about all the time that I've got for now. So without further ado, this is XLex. I'm signing out, and I hope you have a fantastic day.